Hello, this is Jasmine, and today I'm going to walk you through how I digitally paint a wolf in Portrait. For this piece, I'm using an old version of Photoshop with primarily the hard and round and soft brushes. I'm not using any special tools or brushes, and these techniques can be replicated in just about any opaque medium like acrylics or gouache or oil. And the coloring of this piece took me about 2 hours in total. If you're curious about how I draw the structure of the face though, I have that in a previous video and I'll have a link in the description, as well as my older video on drawing and coloring a wolf in profile. The first thing I do is lay down a base color, some kind of mid-tone value. I'm using a reference for the colors here, but something to keep in mind no matter what color of wolf you're painting is that wolves tend to have lighter muzzles and chests, light coloring around their eyes and in their ears. They also almost always have brown tones. Even black and white wolves usually have a little bit of brown around their ears and muzzle, but gray wolves especially have a lot of brown. I'm not worried about going out of the lines a little because this is going to be a lineless work. And after I lay the base, I just go right in with big blocks of color on a low opacity and using sweeping strokes to imitate the fur. I'm keeping the length and the direction of the fur in mind, but I'm not too worried about the messiness of the strokes. And I'm definitely not worried about detail at this point. I'm only worried about getting the values and the placement correct. There will be a lot of dark shadows inside the ears and at the base of the ears, as well as around the lips and the eyes. The wolf's pattern will be almost as dark in some places as the shadows of the fur are, and to be cohesive, I'm just going to use the darkest shadow color for those patterns in the fur and also for the nose. Go ahead and pause to follow along with the color shapes here or make up your own colors and patterns, but be aware of the shadows and the highlights. Most of the pattern comes through the guard hairs, which are longer and often darker tipped, leading to the ticked pattern that you see, where a lot of lighter fur shows beneath. I basically go in with smaller brushes, slowly refining the pattern and direction of the fur, and then when I'm happy with the base colors, I use a blending tool like a smudge, or if you're using oil, you could do that, but don't worry about it too much with actual painting because your brush strokes are going to be a lot softer in general. But I use that blending tool to smooth out the undercoat that I just put down just a bit, keeping some of the harder edges. And then I go in with a soft brush with a mixture of laying down more large color blocks and then also the very fine hairs. I start with dark fur first, and this is the most time-consuming part of the entire process. So make sure that you take breaks or you might find yourself, like me, getting tired and sloppy with some of your strokes. The eyes are fairly easy crescent shape, and I add highlights with kind of like a wagon wheel spoke type pattern, and I also pull the darks of the pupil out in the same way. But make sure to add some little details with highlights to the lids of the eyes and the edges of the nose as well. After the darks come the highlights, and make sure to keep these much more sparse, and there's large areas of light color and they won't need any definition really at all to speak of. Keep in mind that throughout the process I may go back and forth with blending, softening with more color, and the details. From here on out, everything is just strokes of fur and studying the details of the wolf's face. I do like to go in a final time and blend harsher edges and areas that look too busy, especially like the shadows of the fur around the neck. But in general, this is the basics of how I go about painting a wolf in any kind of medium, really, other than like watercolor or some transparent mediums. And just fur in general, I hope that this was useful for you to see. And if you did follow along, please let me know. I've got links to all of my socials below. As always, a like and subscribe is super, super helpful. And thanks for stopping by.